Today's episode is brought to you by Beekeepers Naturals. You and your family deserve to feel your best all day, every day, which is why Beekeepers Naturals creates a clean, science-based remedy that naturally supports your daily health. We especially love the Bee Soothed cough syrup. Bee Soothed contains no dyes, no drugs, no dirty chemicals or refined sugars. When you think of cough syrup, you think of that bitter, artificial taste, but this one is actually really nice. It has a lightly sweet, sort of natural berry flavour. And if you're feeling lousy, you can take it to promote recovery and soothe your throat. Or as soon as you feel a tickle, you can use it to support your immune system. Bee Soothed isn't the only beekeepers product that we love. As podcasters, we talk a lot. The Propolis Throat Spray is a daily defender, and when it comes to supporting your immune system and soothing a scratchy throat, you can take 4 sprays each morning, and the natural immune supporting sprays soothe your throat and promote recovery. Propolis is what bees use to defend their hives from germs. It's the hive's immune system, and if it's good enough for the bees, it's good enough for me. Get some natural immunity support in your medicine cabinet. The cough syrup always sells out quickly, so be sure to snatch it up while you can. You can save 15% off your order by going to beekeepersnaturals.com/crimelapse. That's beekeepersnaturals.com/crimelapse to get 15% off your order. Meet your new medicine cabinet with Beekeepers Naturals.
Welcome to Crime Lapse. I'm Eileen.
And I'm Charlie.
On Christmas Eve 2013, a 14-year-old girl called 911 and pleaded with them to send someone to an apartment in Lake Luzerne, New York. She told the dispatcher that her mother had been stabbed and was dying. When the attacker fled the scene, the girl was able to give the dispatcher a detailed description of the man, because she knew him. It was her father. This is a special gift.
Located in the southern Adirondacks, the small town of Lake Luzerne has a humble population of less than 4,000 people. Dissected by the Hudson River and framed by mountains, it is especially beautiful in the winter. Lake Luzerne is known as an Adirondack town with a proud heritage, but on Christmas Eve 2013, it was the scene of a horrific crime. Patricia Burns was at home in her Lake Luzerne apartment with 2 of her daughters, Megan and Autumn. They were preparing food for the next day's festivities. 42-year-old Patricia worked in the local community hospice in Saratoga County for the previous 8 years and was a single mother. Patricia had bad luck in relationships. She was trusting, and her partners had taken advantage of this before. After failed relationships with troubled men who were battling addiction, she met Clifford Burns in 1997. Patricia's daughter Megan told True Crime Daily that her mother worked at the drive-thru in a Dunkin' Donuts when she met Clifford Burns. He would come by every day, and they eventually began a relationship. Burns grew up in an abusive home in Niskayuna. His father, James, would regularly beat his mother, Edith, and he even kidnapped her in 1984. After kidnapping Edith, James shot a police officer and then himself. He had shot Edith in the upper torso 3 years earlier and kidnapped her after on the day they were supposed to be in divorce court. Patricia's mother was wary of Burns from the beginning, but her daughter loved him and they began a family together. Patricia had a son and 2 daughters from a previous relationship, Megan and Crystalline. After marrying Burns, they had 2 more girls, Harley and Autumn. In 2009, they moved to live in Lake Luzerne, in the Adirondacks. Burns didn't break the cycle of abuse he grew up in. He continued it in his own home, with his own wife. He would physically abuse Patricia and blamed the smallest of things. He would even threaten her with a gun. The children would witness the abuse, which only ever occurred behind closed doors. To the rest of the world, Burns seemed like a great guy. He was sporty, adventurous, and ambitious, but to those who knew him best, he was a monster. In 2003, he was charged with an assault on Patricia that ended with a misdemeanor conviction. Patricia tried to end things numerous times, but Burns would always win her over, promising to change, but he never did. The string of tragedies continued. On December 27, 2010, Patricia's 15-year-old daughter Crystalline died in her sleep. Her cause of death was unexplained, and Christmas was marred with the loss. Crystalline was the middle child, a generous, mature young lady who was idolised by her younger siblings. She wanted to work in healthcare like her mum. Both Chrissy, as she was known to friends, and Patricia, her mum, had been sick at Christmas, but she seemed to be better when she went to bed on December 26th. When Clifford Burns came down the next morning, he found Crystalline unresponsive and she couldn't be resuscitated. After separating from Burns, Patricia felt strong enough to make it final. She'd been through enough trauma, and she took out a protection order against her abusive ex-husband. Harley had decided to stay with her father when her mum moved to an apartment in Lake Luzerne. He'd never been abusive towards the children, but that was only because Patricia took the abuse for them. She moved back to her mum's house when the verbal abuse became too much for the young teenager to cope with. Patricia began dating a man named Ted Backus, the brother of a local sheriff. That ended badly when Backus assaulted and threatened Patricia with a gun and firing a shot into the ceiling. Backus only received a restraining order after pleading guilty. Harley and Autumn didn't speak with their dad often. They hadn't seen him in 8 months. But before the holidays, Autumn decided to text Burns to wish him a Merry Christmas. Burns's response was an ominous warning, a veiled threat that Patricia and her daughters saw through, but not to the extent in which it was meant. The text read, "I have a special gift coming, something for everyone to talk about, and it will be hand-delivered on foot. A very special gift I hope all your friends are there to see, especially Harley." 3 years after Crystalline's death, Patricia and her children were trying to have a normal holiday. They planned on going to Patricia's mother's house for a family celebration that Saturday, but unfortunately, Patricia wouldn't make it. On Christmas Eve, Harley had gone out with some friends while Megan, Autumn and their mother Patricia stayed home to prepare the meal for the next day. Shortly after 5 p.m, a man dressed in full camo and wearing a ski mask barged through the front door. Patricia was terrified. She began to back away from the intruder when he shoved her into a wall and began attacking her. Megan rushed over to help her mother, and in the scuffle she pulled down the attacker's mask. It was her stepfather, Clifford Burns. Patricia pleaded with her ex-husband not to hurt her. She told him she loved him and begged for her life as he plunged a knife into her repeatedly. Patricia's youngest daughter made a heartbreaking call to 911, in which she describes how her dad attacked her mum and that her mum was bleeding out on the floor.
911, where's your emergency?
My mom's bleeding out on the floor. My dad just came in and they stabbed her and she's dying and she's bleeding out. She's dying. My sister's bleeding too.
Megan had been stabbed too in the arm, and she ran outside to try and get help. On the 911 call, Autumn can be heard telling the dispatcher that her father had fled and described what he looked like and what he was wearing.
He's on foot. He ran. I don't know if
What's he wearing?
Vehicle up. He's like 5'9", 5'10". He's bald. He's wearing camouflage right now, and I think he's going to go out into the mountains.
Outside, Megan saw Burns following her. She began screaming, and luckily people nearby came to her aid, and Burns left the scene. Megan went back into the apartment where Autumn was still on the phone. She begged the dispatcher to send help quickly because her mother was dying, and she pleaded with her mother to stay with her.
Mom, hold on, Mom. Hold on, Mommy, please. Yes, you wanted to. I can't. She's dying. I need my mother. Please help. Oh my God, my mom's dying. Her school supply on the floor. My sister's gonna die. You need to get people here.
The call lasted 10 minutes and 23 seconds. Autumn can be heard sobbing while telling her mother to pray and informing the dispatcher that her mum is all she has left.
Is she breathing?
Stay with us. You're stronger. You can do this, Mom. I know you can. She's dying. She's on her way. Help, please. Help.
Ma'am, I know I'm trying to get people there.
No, you don't understand. She's the last thing I have.
The police arrived at 69 Lake Avenue at around 5 p.m. The twinkling of Christmas lights on the quiet street were outshone by flashing lights, and the silence had been replaced by sirens and screaming. When the emergency services entered the apartment, they found Patricia on the floor, bleeding profusely from multiple stab wounds. Harley had been out with friends, and after being alerted that the police were at her home through social media, she rang the house, where she spoke with Megan and was told what had happened. Patricia was taken to Glen Falls Hospital by ambulance, where she was pronounced dead shortly after. Megan had suffered a serious injury to her arm while trying to protect her mother. The police knew exactly who they were looking for and spotted Burns in a vehicle in Lake George. They began pursuing the suspect, and he drove through the municipal centre to Warren County Sheriff's Office parking lot. A deputy approached him and asked what he was doing there, and Burns replied, "I've done a bad thing. I need to go to jail. My stuff is by the door." Over the course of 5 hours, police spoke to 46-year-old Clifford Burns. In the interview footage that was released shortly after, Burns can be heard saying that he just couldn't take it anymore and was driven to kill Patricia when he received a phone call to inform him that he would be arrested after missing 2 child support payments. Here are some extracts from that interview.
You know what happened today? Family court calls my lawyer up saying they're fucking taking my kids and put me in jail, and I did nothing but pay it, you guys. And this guy shoots the house up with a loaded handgun, gets all misdemeanors. It was an apartment complex. You know Governor Cuomo's gun laws? It was an unregistered handgun. Every bullet in the fucking chamber of the gun was a felony. Going in the apartment complex was a felony and dislodging the handgun. He got 9 fucking misdemeanors because of his brother. Beat my old lady up, put her in the fucking hospital. My kid was home when he shot the fucking motherfucker! Get him in here and put me in a room with both of them. I'll beat the fuck out of him. He ran like a coward and a snake, and his brothers are 2 pieces of shit.
Okay. I have no idea what you're really referring to.
You know what I'm fucking referring to, 69 Route N.
Okay.
December of last year when he went in with
right now. So
I'm filling you in.
I wasn't there that night, so I don't know.
He's weren't there. Nobody did nothing to him. Nobody did nothing. But me, 2 court orders against me and haven't seen my kid since last fucking year. He disappeared from the town because I've been going up there the last few days. I was going to got him. Teddy Backus. You can tell him I said it. Don't ever let me out of jail again. Because I'll kill him.
Burns asks the officers to just shoot him in the head because he didn't want to live anymore. He blames Patricia for leaving him and screams about her ex-boyfriend Ted Backus. He also threatens Backus' life and warns the officers to never let him out because he would kill him if he got the chance. Burns believed that Backus got off lightly after assaulting Patricia and shooting into the ceiling in February of that year because his brothers were in law enforcement.
I love my children. Right here, motherfucker, Irish, and you cocksuckers are Irish, and you let this motherfucker walk?
We didn't let him do anything.
But his brothers did.
Okay.
When I come home from family court, when she had me arrested on a fucking violation, the cop in the car said he was brand new and he knew the charges were Trump, but he didn't open his fucking mouth.
Burns also claims to be Irish and wrongly associates this with a white power tattoo he has on his chest. He told the officers that he'd thought about killing Patricia and just going into the woods to survive, boasting that his father taught him how. He believed he did the officers a favour. He said, "I could have made this a war. You would have had to drop a fucking platoon in the woods for me. I cut you a big break." He said that he just wanted to see his babies on Christmas.
I just wanted to see my fucking babies, man. I'm asking you if you have any fucking heart at all. You have kids. Do you know what I'm going through? This bitch took me right out of their life with the phony court order. I never did nothing wrong. I work. I can only take so much. I fucking can't do it no more. I can't even go out of my fucking house. I feel like I'm fucking mentally fucking insane. I don't even know how to have a conversation with anybody anymore. I go into a store and I'm like scared to death because I got all this fucking emotional baggage on me. Fucking court, family court, no visitation, this and that. I don't even know what the fuck to tell you anymore. I fucking went to a counselor. He told me, I talked to him. You're doing the right thing, stay away from her. She'll never change. You go back with her, what the fuck? She'll only drink and fuck over you again. She did it 4 years ago. I spent all kinds of money. I took the fucking bitch back because I love my children. It's all I worry about is my little babies. That's it. God fucking strike me dead. Strike me fucking dead, motherfucker. You put the devil on my shoulder and you put him on the other fucking side. Strike me fucking dead. I don't even give a fuck. Kill me! Put a bullet in me right now. Put a fucking bullet in me. Blow my fucking head off right now. Take the knife out and put one in me. Just fucking end it. I should have pretended I had a gun out there. I thought about it all the way. I don't want to live no more. You took every fucking thing from me, you cowardly little cocksuckers, and it started last year with the Backus brothers.
Throughout the interview, Clifford Burns puts the blame on everyone else. He blamed Patricia for ruining his life. He said that she was a stripper and an alcoholic who was a negligent parent. He blamed her ex, Ted Backus, for convincing her to take out a protection order against him and preventing him from seeing his children. He blamed his sister, who had been speaking with his daughters without his knowledge, and he blamed the woman from Child Services, who told his lawyer that a warrant would be issued for his arrest after he missed 2 child support payments.
Kick myself in the ass for fucking my whole life up. And what do? I try to do the white picket fucking fence thing and I married a stripper. I destroyed my own life. This bitch got off on humiliating me. Taking my kids out of my life, putting court orders on me to cover up her drinking and running around with this fucking little pissant punk. That was my one mission. I wanted to kill that motherfucker. I'll tell you straight out, Teddy Backus. I wanted him. He's disappeared. Is he in jail?
I have no idea where he is.
Run his fucking name. Stop playing fucking games.
I don't know where he is. Okay, I don't know where he's at.
You don't know where he's at?
No.
Bet you his brothers do, though, don't they? They out hunting last month?
I have no idea what they do.
Do you know any man who fucking... I don't know what to tell you. I can't get that shit off my mind, how disgusting it is. When there's children in an apartment building and you dislodge a firearm, they're felonies across the board. You keep fucking telling me that they ain't, and I want to punch your fucking face in.
Did you hear me?
Well, then why did you were there?
I told
you were fucking there. That's when you said the wrong thing to me. You were there.
But and I gave you an honest answer.
Right. You said let them handle it. But when there's 40 fucking cops here in a SWAT team, the guy gets no felonies? Come on, you're an intelligent motherfucker. I know you kick ass. You're military and everything. I can tell just by the way you stand and present yourself. You're telling me my charges? His charges weren't fucking felonies?
I'm not saying they weren't.
No, you know they were. But you couldn't do nothing because you're a rookie. I understand it. Them two, how long they been here? I heard one brother's a pissant and one's way up in the fucking thing. Alright? Charges got rigged. Case closed. Don't want to hear another fucking thing. It was the beginning of the end for me. My whole life has fallen apart in the last 2 fucking years. And I keep telling her, leave me alone, leave me alone. I wrote the kids off. I wrote her off. I didn't go to fuck around. Today I'm being threatened with arrest again. I can't take it no more. I couldn't fucking take it. I don't even know what the fuck. Where the fuck am I right now? I don't even know what the fuck. I'm fucking out of my fucking mind.
Warren County Sheriff's.
Burns said it was like the devil took over his body and that he blacked out and didn't remember what happened at Patricia's apartment. He told the officers that he had written a will in his home before he left to make sure that his possessions went to his children.
You motherfuckers, you know what's going the fuck on, don't you? You're like a coward little bitch is what you are, because you know the whole fucking story and you're sitting here playing your shit. I watch your shit on TV every fucking night. The first 48. Will this man turn himself right the fuck in? What are you waiting for, the murder charge to come in? Is the fucking bitch breathing? I fucking lost it. I don't know what to tell you. Today was the last fucking straw. Alright?
Okay. Do you remember anything about what happened when you got
I don't remember a fucking thing. You ask me again, I'm gonna put my fucking foot through your fucking head.
After finding out that Patricia was dead, Burns began vomiting and shortly after returned to his angry state and began calling her names again.
This fucking cunt from the support collection unit. Call my lawyer on Christmas Eve. I didn't even know they were working. Are they even fucking working today? This is how much of a hard-on. He calls me up.
I don't know if they're open today. If it's a regular business.
She came in on Saturday. The other paper was dated to fuck me. And then she comes in today, another fucking holiday, to fuck me in the ass? That fucking no good fucking cunt. You tell her. If I ever knew her fucking face, I would have tore her fucking heart out. The fucking cunt. Motherfucking cunt.
Clifford, Patricia's dead. Okay?
What?
She's dead. Okay.
As the interview came to an end, Clifford Burns said, "Till death do us part, baby doll." Early on Christmas morning, Burns was brought before State Court Justice David Krogman on a second-degree murder charge and remanded to county jail without bond.
Christmas morning on the street where Patricia lived with her daughters was far from what anyone would imagine. There were no children out playing with their new toys, no carols in the air, police tape cordoned off the crime scene, and the neighbours were stunned. Bud York, Warren County Sheriff, told reporters about the incident but declined to outline the exact details. Sheriff York said that there had been a history of domestic incidences and that the sheriff's patrols and state troopers chased the suspect to the sheriff's office, where he was arrested and charged. The weapon had still not been recovered at this stage. On December 27th, the local shop where Patricia had worked part-time held a fundraiser for Patricia's children. Patricia had helped care for the owner's mother while working as an aide at a local hospice, and was remembered as a hard worker who cared deeply about her work, her patients, and her children. A vigil was held on December 29th for Patricia Burns. Students from the local high school Patricia's daughters attended organised for mourners to release balloons into the dark winter sky in Patricia's memory. Over 100 people congregated to celebrate Patricia's life and sang Amazing Grace, something the Key Club Choir had sang for the family every Christmas since Crystalline's death in 2010. Patricia's funeral was held the following day, December 30th, at the Blessed Sacrament Church in Albany. In January, Burns was brought to an arraignment hearing before Warren County Judge John Hall. He pleaded not guilty to an indictment of 5 charges including second-degree murder and first-degree assault. Evidence was filed from the Sheriff's Office and District Attorney, which included the almost 7-hour tape of interview footage, the 911 call Autumn Burns made, and the medical records from when Patricia and Megan were taken to the hospital following the attack. Patricia sustained 5 stab wounds to her torso. The fatal wounds punctured her lung and liver. Megan had sustained a wound to her left arm that was so deep it severed a tendon and had to be surgically repaired. Burns obtained a public defender who entered the not guilty plea on his behalf. Burns's previous criminal history was outlined by Judge Hall. He had 2 felonies and 4 misdemeanor convictions. Megan Jenkins, Patricia's eldest daughter, wrote a statement that detailed the events of December 24th. She said that there had been a knock on the apartment door while her mother was preparing Christmas dinner, and her stepfather, Clifford Burns, barged his way in and slammed Patricia against the wall before repeatedly stabbing her in the stomach. Megan said that when she jumped on him to stop him, he shoved her back and stabbed her in the arm before saying, "Don't think this is the last for you, bitch." Autumn Burns had told the police that she was alerted to something being wrong when she heard her mother screaming in the kitchen. She ran from another room in the apartment and saw her mother being stabbed by her father while her mother was saying, "Cliff, don't do this, I love you." Public defender Marcy Flores entered a not guilty plea on Burns' behalf, and he was rearraigned. Ted Backus attended the hearing in early January. Mr. Backus said outside of the court that Burns had threatened to kill him and Patricia on numerous occasions. Backus told reporters that Burns' abuse got worse after Patricia's daughter Crystalline died, and he violated a protection order Patricia had taken out against him in 2009. The case was sent to a grand jury for review. A grand jury procedure is held in secret out of the eyes of the media. The grand jury decide what formal charges can be brought against the accused. The prosecutor presents their evidence to at least 16 members of the public. Grand jury hearings are less favourable to the defence because only the prosecution can present evidence. In this case, the district attorney had waived a preliminary trial to spare Patricia's daughter the trauma of testifying. The grand jury would decide what charges would be placed against Clifford Burns and whether the case would go to county court.
In February 2014, Burns' new lawyer Wayne Smith filed a notice indicating his intention to use extreme emotional disturbance as a psychiatric defence. This would result in a conviction of first-degree manslaughter as opposed to second-degree murder with a maximum sentence of 25 years. Burns' charges were second-degree murder in relation to Patricia Burns, first-degree manslaughter, first-degree assault, third-degree possession of a weapon, and the misdemeanor charge of fleeing from the police. According to the New York penal law, to have an affirmative defence of extreme emotional disturbance, or EED for short, the defendant must have had an extreme emotional disturbance that resulted in a profound loss of control. There must also be a reasonable explanation for the defendant's reaction to this disturbance, and in the case of homicide, they must have acted under the influence of extreme emotional disturbance. It is up to a jury to accept the defence by trying to understand the defendant's viewpoint in relation to the perceived emotional disturbance. This defence relies on there being a reasonable excuse for the emotional disturbance suffered by the defendant, not an excuse for the crime committed. Kate Hogan, a Warren County District Attorney, said that she would contest the defence and that she believed the appropriate charge of second-degree murder should be upheld. It was presented that a number of actions disputed Burns' claim that he did not remember the events or plan them. These included leaving a note in his home detailing what he wanted to happen to his possessions after his arrest, driving almost an hour to Patricia Burns' home from his own home, text messages he sent to his daughter before the attack that could be interpreted as a threat, fleeing the crime scene and disposing of the knife. And in police interviews, he spoke of how he had planned numerous ways to kill or harm his ex-wife. Burns' criminal history showed that he had been in abusive domestic situations for a long time. This was not the case of a man who simply snapped, the prosecution alleged. Throughout his time in custody in county jail, he was said to have been threatening and abusive towards guards and other inmates. One corrections officer heard Burns say, "I'm glad I killed her," just 4 days after the attack. He also told another that he would cut his throat, take his tongue out and mop the floor with his blood. Corrections officer Anthony Kabarak also said that Burns had threatened to snap his neck like a twig. On April 17th, Burns was brought to court again, this time to plead guilty. He had accepted a plea deal which meant that in exchange for pleading guilty, he would only receive a 23-year sentence for the murder charge, and the other charges would be dropped. When questioned by Judge Hall, Burns said that he had not intentionally killed his ex-wife, but eventually admitted that he did intend to kill her when he was on top of her, stabbing her. Burns said that he didn't know how many times he had stabbed Patricia. He thought it had been once, but she was stabbed a total of 5 times. Burns tried to explain what led up to the attack and again spoke about the child support issues and not being able to see his children. Sentencing was set for May 2014. The assault charge for Megan was dropped, but Burns was ordered to pay restitution and signed over some property to her. The District Attorney, Kate Hogan, said that the plea deal spared Burns 2 years in prison, but also spared his children the trauma of testifying at the trial. DA Hogan said, "In this particular case, forcing the children to relive the horrors of that night hardly seemed worth the 2 years. We were able to secure a top-count conviction and 23 years to life. From our perspective, that was a good disposition." As Burns was led out of the courtroom, he turned around to his daughters who were sitting in the jury box and told them that he loved them. Sentencing was scheduled for later in the year.
Shortly after this, Burns filed a motion to withdraw his guilty plea. Burns's new attorney, Garfield Raymond, argued that his client had the right to withdraw his plea because he had ineffective counsel and was unable to enter the correct plea because he was in a complex emotional state. At the sentencing hearing on September 5th, Mr. Raymond for the defence said that after meeting with his daughters, he was under extreme emotional disturbance. Burns had met with his daughters at their request, and they urged him to accept the plea deal to prevent them from having to go through a full trial. It also meant that he would avoid potentially being sentenced to 50 years behind bars. When discussing the plea deal with the council after the meeting, he accepted it without question. The county court explained what accepting the plea deal would mean going forward, and he admitted the charge and entered a guilty plea. Mr. Raymond told Judge Hall that the knife used to kill Patricia Burns was her own knife, and that Burns was suffering from extreme emotional disturbance when he committed the crime, due to the child support issues and his feelings about the February 2013 incident involving Ted Backus. Burns told the judge, "I never intended to kill my wife, and I am innocent of the murder of my wife." It was his position that his previous attorney did not advise him about the emotional disturbance defence before he accepted the plea deal. DA Kate Hogan contested this and told the judge that there was evidence that Burns knew what he was doing, and he had carried out the attack with premeditation. Miss Hogan cited the fact that Burns had left a note in his house stating what he intended to do with his possessions. He went to the apartment wearing camouflage clothes and a mask and was carrying a hunting knife. Miss Hogan said that there was no viable EED evidence. Mr. Raymond argued that the note was left because his client intended to violate the protection order to see his children on Christmas, not because he was planning to kill their mother. Judge Hall denied the request to take back the guilty plea and said that it was made voluntarily. Judge Hall said that it was unfortunate that Burns would not take responsibility and said that Burns' 15-year-old daughter appeared more mature than her father. Following this, Patricia's daughters read victim impact statements to the court, which were filled with Patricia's loved ones. Megan spoke of her mother's love, care and energy, and said that Christmas was tainted forever for her, and whenever she closed her eyes, she could see her mother bleeding out on the floor. Megan said, "What Cliff really took from me that Christmas Eve was my heart." Autumn said that her mother was her best friend, and that her death had left her scared that someday it would happen to her. She said, "I live day to day wondering what if, and how come, and why." Harley said that there were no words to describe how she felt, and that she just wished she had her mother there to support her. She said to her father, who sat with his head down at the defence table, "What is a 15-year-old girl supposed to do without her mother? You didn't think about your own children." As agreed in the plea deal Burns accepted in April, he was sentenced to 23 years to life in prison for the murder of Patricia Burns. Burns argued with the judge when he imposed the 31-year protection order that would prevent him from contacting his children. The judge said that they could appeal the protection order once they turned 18, but that doesn't mean he would lift the restriction due to the outrageous abuse of the children by murdering their mother. Just before the first Christmas without Patricia, her mother Helen Curran spoke to the Daily Mail and recalled how she found out about her daughter's death. Mrs. Curran said that she received a call from Patricia's son, who told her to turn on the news. There, she saw the reports that her daughter had been stabbed in her home, as had her granddaughter Megan. Mrs. Curran told the Daily Mail that she went to the court when Burns was sentenced and felt that it wasn't long enough. Mrs. Burns told the publication, quote, "The children and I have been handed our own life sentence, one without a wonderful mother and daughter. Christmas will never be the same. This year, we will be holding a remembrance for her. If I can stop one other family going through what my Trish did, then that will be the start. I knew Clifford Burns was rotten to the core the day I met him. I just wish Trish had seen what I did. A monster." Unquote. Burns and his lawyers filed an appeal which was heard the following year. In October 2015, Burns's lawyer Matthew Hugg said to the Supreme Court Appellate Division that the appellant wanted to argue extreme emotional distress from the beginning, but the district attorney dangled his daughters in front of him, and they all talked him into taking the plea. Mr. Hugg for the defence said that Burns accepting the guilty plea was a clear case of coercion. The state argued that there was overwhelming evidence to support his guilt, and that the defence of extreme emotional disturbance would not have been viable. Before sentencing, Burns had filed a pro se motion to withdraw his guilty plea. He stated that it was entered under duress and involuntary after meeting with his daughters. He also said that he had ineffective counsel in Attorney Smith. This motion was denied and a new lawyer was assigned to Burns to represent him. Mr. Hugg submitted an appellant brief that contended that the county court erred when they denied his motion to withdraw his plea. In the appellate decision, they refer to People v. Messiah and state that whether to permit a defendant to withdraw his or her plea of guilty is left to the sound discretion of the county court, and withdrawal will generally not be permitted absent some evidence of innocence, fraud, of mistake in its own inducement. The appellate court denied the appeal in a written document and said that the record showed no support of Burns's claim that he was rendered incapable of entering a voluntary guilty plea after speaking with his daughters. The decision also states that they'd found the defendant's claim that he did not have effective counsel was belied by the record, which showed that the original counsel for the defence secured a favourable plea deal. The decision reads in part, "Given the overwhelming proof of the defendant's guilt, including eyewitness accounts, we find that, contrary to his claims, counsel reasonably encouraged him to accept the favourable plea deal and afforded him meaningful representation. Finally, defendant's pro se claims, including those regarding the arraignment, lack merit or are outside the record on appeal." Justice Christine Clark wrote, "We find that the record provides no support for defendant's claim that he was so emotionally distraught as a result of the family meeting as to render him incapable of entering a voluntary guilty plea, and otherwise reflects that he was fully advised of his rights and freely entered an knowing, voluntary and intelligent plea." District Attorney Hogan called the result gratifying. Clifford Burns never accepted responsibility for his actions and tried to blame anyone but himself. He portrayed himself as a victim the entire time. His daughters have been left without either parent as a result of his actions, and he ruined more than Christmas. He irreparably destroyed their lives. Burns' sentence of 23 years to life was upheld, and he will be eligible for parole in 2036.
According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience some form of physical abuse by an intimate partner. Domestic hotlines receive an average of 20,000 calls a day in the US. Domestic abuse accounts for almost 15% of all violent crime, and what is the most terrifying thing is that this is only the reported cases. What happens behind closed doors sometimes stays there. 1 in 15 children are exposed to intimate partner violence each year, with 90% of these children actually witnessing the violence. While Christmas is a time for celebration for most, for some it is the most dangerous time of the year. Normal stressors are coupled with seasonal factors such as increased alcohol intake, financial stress, and being stuck inside for long periods of time. Domestic violence spikes around the holidays, and with the increased pressure of COVID-19 and lockdowns affecting households around the globe, there has also been an influx of calls to domestic violence helplines. In homes where there are children, these helpless victims are more likely than ever to not only witness abuse, but to be subjected to it themselves. This Christmas will be different for a lot of us. Behaviours we may have noticed at the dinner table will be kept hidden and isolated. If you are concerned about a loved one, please contact a helpline or professionals. The issue of domestic violence will last a lot longer than any health pandemic and must be socially unacceptable. No one wants to spend Christmas in a refuge. Parents don't want to ruin their child's holiday by taking them away from everything they know. But please, if you can get out of an abusive relationship this Christmas, you will increase your chances of seeing another one. Intimate terrorism is a pandemic in itself. Abusers and their victims are being locked in together, but there is still help out there. Organisations are still operating to ensure that victims of intimate partner violence have a safe place to seek refuge when they feel able to do so. We'll have a list of helplines in our show notes. Thank you for listening to Crime Lapse and for all of your support this year. We are thinking of those who have an empty seat around the table this year and hoping that next year will be somewhat easier on us all. If you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a review, subscribing, sharing, or joining our Patreon, where you will be helping to fund an independent podcast. Take care of yourselves and each other. We'll be back in the new year with new episodes.
Hi, I'm Christine, and I'd like to introduce you to the True Crime Files podcast, a bi-weekly podcast that focuses on mysterious disappearances and unsolved murders. Every 2 weeks, we'll be releasing an episode that'll help you get to know a case really well without having to invest a lot of your time. Derived from the articles up on the True Crime Files website, you'll find that our show covers a diversity of victims and perspectives. You'll probably also notice that our episodes are narrated by Scott Fuller from the Frozen Truth and Status Pending podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to the True Crime Files today so that you never miss an episode. Thanks so much for listening, being a part of our true crime community, and helping to shine a light on cases that might otherwise be overlooked or underreported.